Hello dear students, I hope you all are doing well and I also hope that you are enjoying civics lectures with me. So, today we are going to learn a new chapter and the name of the chapter is Electoral Politics. Alright, in the previous chapters we learned that in a democracy there has to be elections, right? So, through elections in a democracy, people choose their representatives and through the representatives people rule, kind of, right? Okay, so in this chapter we will be learning the election process, how it takes in India, alright. So let us begin the chapter quickly. See, let us quickly take example of assembly elections in Haryana. On the screen, you are able to see the picture of CM of Haryana, alright. So, we are going to learn how he was elected in the assembly elections in Haryana. So, let us quickly see the story. The name of this person is Chaudhry Devi Lal. Then, during that time, earlier, he was the opposition leader, alright. And what he did, he led a movement called Nyaya Yuddha, which means struggle for justice. And he also formed a new party called Lok Dal, alright. So, name of the party which was led by Chaudhry Devi Lal was Lok Dal, alright. Chaudhry Devi Lal, as you know, as it is told you that he was the opposition leader and he led a movement called Nyaya Yuddha and he formed a new party called Lok Dal. Now, what was happening? The people of Haryana were very, sad. Rather, they were unhappy with the previous or the existing, rather I would say, existing government, right? Now, what happened? Mr. Devi Lal, he promised people that if he would become the chief minister, right, if he is elected, then what he will do? He will waive off the loans of the farmers and small businessmen. You all know that farmers, they often take loan, right? And then, the political parties who want to come in the power, they often, promise these, farmers or small businessmen that if we come to the power, we will waive off the loans. In Rajasthan also during the elections, the same thing happened lately, in case you follow the news. So, what happened in Haryana? Mr. Devi Lal promised that if his party comes to the power, what he is going to do? He will waive off the loans of the farmers and small businessmen. And right after that, elections take place. And then what happened? Lok Dal and its partners. Partners means the alliances, right? Alliance parties, they all together won 76 seats out of 90, which is a very big number, right? So, all 76 seats they won all together and इनमें से लोकदल अकेले लोकदल को कितने सीट्स मिले? 60 सीट्स, राइट? और बाकी 16 सीट्स किसके थे? जो अलायंस पार्टी के थे. यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड लाइक दिस. टोटल सीट्स कितने थे? 90. उसमें से टोटल 76 सीट्स किसको मिले? लोकदल और उसकी अलायंस पार्टी को, राइट? और इसमें से भी अकेले लोकदल ने कितनी सीट्स जीती? 60 सीट्स उसने अकेले जीत ली. ओके, नाउ एंड thus had a clear majority in the assembly. अब उनको क्या असेंबली में मिल गया? मेजॉरिटी, मतलब उनको बहुमत मिल गया और अब वो अपनी सरकार बना सकते हैं. So then the government invited Chaudhry Devi Lal to be the new chief minister and 3 days after the election results were declared and he became the chief minister. So finally the leader of the Lok Dal, Mr. Chaudhry Devi Lal became the chief minister of Haryana. Alright. Now, as soon as Chaudhry Devi Lal became the chief minister, he waived off all the loans of farmers and small businessmen as he promised. क्योंकि उन्होंने ये वादा किया था कि जब वो बनेंगे चीफ मिनिस्टर तो वो लोन्स माफ कर देंगे, तो उन्होंने कर दिया. लेकिन दोबारा जब इलेक्शन हुए in the year 1991, this time his party did not win popular support, right? अगली बार जब इलेक्शन हुए 1991 में तो चौधरी जी को बहुमत नहीं मिला और उनकी सरकार नहीं बनी. तो इस बारी किसकी सरकार बनी? द कांग्रेस पार्टी वन द इलेक्शन एंड फॉर्म द गवर्नमेंट. इस बारी किसकी सरकार बनी? कांग्रेस पार्टी की. अब ऐसा क्यों हुआ? चौधरी देवीलाल की पार्टी क्यों नहीं जीती? इसलिए नहीं जीती क्योंकि उन्होंने बाकी काम नहीं किए होंगे लोगों के मुताबिक, राइट? तो इलेक्शंस में क्या होगा? लोगों के पास ये राइट है कि लोग उसी की सरकार बनने देंगे जो पार्टी उनके लिए काम करेगी, राइट? तो इस तरीके से इंडिया में क्या होते हैं? इलेक्शंस होते हैं और इलेक्शंस के थ्रू लोग अपने रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स को चूज करते हैं और फिर उनके थ्रू वो रूल करते हैं, राइट? Now the popular question is, the question arises here is, why do we need elections? हमें elections की क्या ज़रूरत है? तो हम इस चीज़ को समझते हैं और पढ़ते हैं कि why do we need elections? See, first of all, elections take place regularly in any democracy, right? So in a democracy, elections should be there after some time of interval. कुछ दौरान, कुछ ड्यूरेशन के बाद किसी भी एक हेल्दी डेमोक्रेसी में इलेक्शंस का होना बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है. सबसे पहली कंडीशन तो डेमोक्रेसी की यही होती है दैट देयर हैज़ टू बी व्हाट? इलेक्शंस. देन there are more than 100 countries in the world in which elections take place to choose people's representative. 100 से भी ज़्यादा कंट्रीज़ ऐसे हैं जहाँ पर रेगुलर टाइम पीरियड के बाद इलेक्शंस होते हैं, राइट, और लोग इलेक्शंस के थ्रू अपना रिप्रेजेंटेटिव चूज़ करते हैं. Now, how do we ensure that these representatives rule as per the wishes of the people? How to make sure that those who won who the people do not like, do not remain their representatives? ये कैसे पता चलेगा? Now, people can ensure this thing by a mechanism called election. Okay, so this requires a mechanism by which people can choose their representative at regular intervals and change them if they wish to do so. This mechanism is called election. इसका मतलब क्या हुआ कि एक मैकेनिज्म है, उसका नाम है इलेक्शंस. तो इलेक्शन के थ्रू लोग अपना रिप्रेजेंटेटिव चुनते हैं. जैसे कि लोगों को लगा हरियाणा में चौधरी देवीलाल एक सही रिप्रेजेंटेटिव है, जैसे ही वो सीएम बने उन्होंने लोगों के लोन्स भी वेव ऑफ किए, लेकिन जो उनका 5 इयर्स का टर्म था उसमें उन्होंने बाकी काम सही नहीं किए होंगे, इसीलिए लोगों ने उनको अगली बार चूज नहीं किया. तो ये लोगों के हाथ में है. अगर वो चाहते हैं कि कोई पर्टिकुलर पॉलिटिकल पार्टी, if that particular political party should remain in the power, people will vote for them. If people do not want to do that, people can vote against that party and give vote to some other party, right? So elections, again I'm telling you that elections are very, very important for a healthy democracy. In an election, the voters make many choices. तो elections के through जो voters होते हैं उनके पास choice होती है. What all choices they have? First of all, they can choose who will make laws for them. As you know that through the representatives people rule, right? So the representative will be framing the laws for them, so people can choose that particular representative who will be making laws for the people. Now they can choose who will form the government and take major decisions, right? ये तो पता ही होता है ना कि जिस भी पार्टी में जो रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स होते हैं हमें पता होता है कि किसकी गवर्नमेंट आगे जाके बनने वाली है, राइट? एंड मेजर डिसीजंस वो क्या लेने वाले हैं जो भी लोगों को पसंद है. जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल कि अगर लोग चाहते हैं कि एक आईएम्स बन जाए देश के हर राज्य के अंदर या हर स्टेट के अंदर, राइट? सो इफ फॉर एग्जांपल इफ सम गवर्नमेंट इन द देयर मैनिफेस्टो इफ दे हैव डिक्लेयर्ड कि हाँ, इफ वी कम इनटू द पावर वी विल मेक IIMS hospital in each and every state of the country, so people will vote for them, right? लोगों को पता है कि हाँ ये मेजर डिसीजन है, ये होना चाहिए एंड इनकी गवर्नमेंट बनेगी अगर हम इनको वोट देंगे तो, so people can vote for them. Then they can choose the party whose policies will guide the government and law making. People can choose that particular party जिसकी policies उनको अच्छी लगती है या उनको लगता है कि it will guide the government in the correct way and in the law making it will be helpful. What makes an election democratic? Now it is a very big question. What makes an election democratic? How do we know that the elections are democratic or not? What is the criteria? Now there are many examples of countries where elections are held but they cannot be really called democratic elections. We have also seen it in the first chapter, democracy, that in China there are elections, right? In Pakistan there elections are there. In Mexico, in Zimbabwe, in different, we took reference of different countries, right? Elections तो हो रहे थे, but could we really call those elections democratic? जैसे मेक्सिको में क्या हो रहा था, only one party was willing in election back to back, but later we found that there were malpractices and frauds behind it, right? So do you really call these elections democratic? No. In Pakistan also it was military's rule, but we cannot call these elections democratic. Elections are there but cannot be really called democratic. Now, what are the conditions of a democratic elections? How do we understand that what certain conditions or limitations are to be there to understand that yes, this particular election is democratic? Okay. So what are those conditions? Let us have a look at them. First of all, everyone should be able to choose. This means that everyone should have one vote and every vote should have equal value. Do you remember that in the first chapter we learnt about Fiji, that in Fiji the voting, this thing specifically, that one vote one value system was not implemented there, because indigenous people, when they vote, the value of their vote was higher. But when Indian people or some people from some other country, if they shifted to Fiji, their vote did not have that particular value. The value of their vote was lesser than the value of indigenous Fiji. I hope you remember this thing. So, this should not happen in a democracy. If somebody is voting, then the voting value has to be equal for everyone, right? Then parties and candidates should be free to contest elections and should offer some real choice to the voters. Now, you should link it to the very first chapter. We have taken example of China, wherein there was only one party and people were supposed to vote for that particular party only because there were no choices. If I tell you that on Teachers' Day I will be distributing ice creams to all the children. Now, if I give you choice, which ice cream you want to eat? Now, I will give you 3 flavors: chocolate, chocolate and chocolate. Now, do you have a choice? No. You are bound to choose only chocolate because I am only offering you chocolates, right? This should not happen in a healthy democracy. If I really want to give you a choice, I have to give you 3 flavors, right? I have to give you chocolate, I have to give you strawberry or any other flavor, let's say, blackberry. So, now you have choices, now you can choose. Similarly, in the elections, there has to be different parties so that people have options, right? The way we have in our country, we have many parties and people can choose any of the party they like. Now, the choices which are being offered, they should be offered at regular intervals. That means elections must be held regularly after every few years, right? So, in different countries, different intervals are decided. In our country, the term of the election is 5 years. After every 5 years, elections has to happen in the country, okay? Then, the candidate preferred by the people should get elected, right? Which means, let's say majority of the people, let's say, voted for a candidate. So, that particular candidate should win, which means there has to be free and fair election system. Then, elections should be conducted in a free and fair manner where people can choose as they really wish. The way I told you, the people should have, this thing that people should be allowed for a free and fair election system. Now, often we see during elections, you all see there is a lot of competition among different political parties. So, the next heading is it good to have political competition? See, elections are all about political competition. The most obvious form is the competition among political parties. You all know that different political parties, they have competition. So, let's say if a political party says, okay, if we come to the power, we will, let's say, give 10 lakh rupees to or 10 lakh people employment every year, right? Sometimes political parties do promise these things, that if we come to the power, we will be giving employment to at least 10 lakh people, right? And the other political party, that party might say, okay, they are giving 10 lakh people employment, so they would increase the number, we will give 20 lakh people employment, right? We will waive off the loans of the farmers, etc., etc. So, is it good to have this political competition? We are going to read this thing. At the constituency level, it takes the form of competition among several candidates, right? So, what happens, I will be teaching you what is a constituency soon, but before moving on to constituency, I will quickly tell you that this competition, see, healthy competition has to be there. There is no harm in having healthy competition, but this competition should not take form of, malpractices or, frauds or bribes, etc. And if there is no competition, elections will become pointless. That is also one thing. So, there has to be healthy competition, but it should not be converted into cheating, I would rather say. Now, competition should be there among the leaders, among the political parties, that is for sure. A healthy competition has to be there. Out of competition, these political leaders always promise people that, if we come to the power, we will do so and so things for you. Now, if they fail to do so, what should be done? They should be rewarded or they should be punished? See, accordingly, they should be rewarded and punished both. Now, if the political party promises to do something and they do it successfully for the people and people are happy for them, they will be rewarded. How? Because in the next election, people will choose them and they will again come to the power and serve the people. But if they fail to do so, if they do not fulfill the wishes of the people, then people will not vote for them and they will not come to the power next time, and this will be the punishment for them, right? So, people have the power, people have this power of rewarding or punishing these politicians, right? So, this competition will help those people to understand, right? For example, if a political party promises and if they fulfill it, people will reward them, they will come to the power next time. If they do not fulfill it, people will punish them by not voting for them next time, right? Politicians also know that if they raise issues that people want to be raised, their popularity and chances of victory will be increased in the next elections. But if they fail to satisfy the voters with their work, they will not be able to win again. This even politicians know. So they also work accordingly, right? It happens that political parties, what do? They will promise you 10 things, but they will try to fulfill all of them. I am not denying, but they at least try to fulfill 70% things so that people choose them next time. Otherwise, people will not choose them next time, right? You can see it in the cartoon. The cartoon says, मेरे पास योजनाएं हैं, घोषणाएं हैं, वादे हैं. कौन बोल रहा है ये बात? The politician, right? But the supreme power of electing that particular political leader is in the hands of the common people. So, the common person is saying, मेरे पास vote है, right? You all know this thing. एक बहुत ही popular dialogue है अमिताभ बच्चन का, मेरे पास माँ है. तो ये उसी से एक इंस्पिरेशनल एक डायलॉग इन्होंने कार्टून बनाया है कि पॉलिटिकल लीडर्स बहुत सारी बातें करते रहते हैं, बहुत सारे डिक्लेरेशंस करते रहते हैं कि विल डू दिस, विल डू दैट, बट एट द एंड ऑफ द डे उनको चूज करने का और हटाने का पावर किसके पास में है? लोगों के पास में है. तो जो पॉलिटिकल कॉम्पिटिशन है वो भी इट इज ऑल्सो इम्पॉर्टेंट. इन द अनदर कार्टून यू कैन सी अ पॉलिटिकल लीडर इज मूविंग विद अ सैक ऑन हिज बैक, राइट, कीपिंग ऑल द प्रॉमिसेस इन द sack. So, what do we understand from this? If a political party is motivated only by desire to be in the power, even then it will be forced to serve the people, right? Even if a political party, if they only want to remain in power, but still they have to fulfill the promises they have made to the people, because if they will not do so, people will not choose them next time, right? Then political competition may cause divisions and some ugliness also sometimes, but it finally helps to force political parties and leaders to serve the people, right? So, sometimes there is some ugliness also. You all know there are fights, political leaders, they speak bad things about each other. Sometimes on the television we see, in the newspaper also we read sometimes, right? But it finally helps them to serve people in a better way, because ultimately the goal of the political party should be to serve the people, right? Now, what is our system of elections? How elections happens in our country? How elections take place in a one of the largest democracies like India? So, you all know, as I already told you, the term for elections here in our country is 5 years. So, after 5 years, the term of all the elected representatives comes to an end. Which means, for example, we saw the example of Haryana government, right? Chaudhary Devilal came to the power. So, for how long he will be ruling? For 5 years. After 5 years, again elections will take place and people will again vote and choose their representative. So, after 5 years, the term of all the elected representatives, which means those representatives or political leaders who were chosen earlier by people, their term comes to an end, right? So, after 5 years, the Lok Sabha and the Vidhan Sabha gets or stands dissolved, okay. Then what happens? Elections are held in all constituencies at the same time, either on the same day or within a few days. This is called general election. You all must be seeing in the newspapers ki elections aane wale hain, right? So, during elections, what happens? People all go and they vote for their representative. So, there are two ways of elections in our country. One is after every 5 years elections take place, right? This is called general election, and the other way is By-election. What is by-election? So, sometimes election is held only for one constituency to fill the vacancy caused by death or resignation of a member. This is called by-election. So, sometimes it happens that a particular, person or a particular political leader or MLA or MP is died or resigned due to some reasons. Then to fill that particular seat, elections happens, and such elections are known as by-election. Now, what is electoral constituencies? We need to understand, very, very important. In our country, we follow an area-based system of representation. The country is divided into different areas for purposes of elections. These areas are called electoral constituencies. Now, what happens? I'll quickly draw on the board and show you. I'm drawing a rough map of India. Please pardon me for my drawing skills and all. It's a very, very rough map. So, what happens? How constituencies are divided? So, you know that India is a very, very big country, right? So, how do we understand, how do we divide the constituencies? So, India is a very big country. Now, the population is also too much, and we need to choose leaders who can serve the people, who can serve that particular population. Now, we have to divide them properly so that in every area there has to be one representative who can listen to the people, who can understand the problems of the people. How it will happen? When we will divide it properly. So, how do we divide it? We divide the country into constituencies, right? In equal areas we divide like this. It is a rough map, children, I am telling again. So, the entire country is divided like this. Okay. Now, these small blocks are known as constituencies. Okay. These are known as constituencies. The entire country is divided into these blocks. So, after dividing the constituencies, what happens? How people vote? So, the voters who live in a particular area, they elect one representative. Okay. Now, for Lok Sabha elections, the country is divided into 543 constituencies. How many? 543. 543. Earlier, this number used to be 545, but earlier, there were 545 seats. Now, it is 543. 2 seats were reserved for Anglo-Indians, which is now removed. Okay, so now we have total 543 seats in the Lok Sabha. You can see the country is divided into different constituencies. Okay. The representative elected from each constituency is called a member of parliament or an MP. Now, people, I told you, will be voting for a one representative. They will be choosing one representative. That representative will be known as member of parliament or MP. Now, similarly, when Vidhan Sabha elections happens, what happens? Each state is divided into a specific number of assembly constituencies. In this case, the elected representative is called the member of legislative assembly or MLA. Now, earlier we saw entire country we divided into different constituencies. Now, we are seeing that state elections also take place, right? In Rajasthan, Goa, Jharkhand, Gujarat, different states elections happens. Now, for state elections, again the state is divided into different constituencies, and when people elect representative in that particular constituency in a state, within a state, then that representative is known as MLA, member of legislative assembly. Now, each parliamentary constituency has within it several assembly constituencies. There are many assembly constituencies in one parliamentary constituency. Same way, if there is a small village, that village will be divided into, now this village, there is a small village. So, village will be divided into wards. What do we call it? Wards. Earlier we were calling it constituency. Now, we will be calling it wards, different wards. Okay. Now, each wards elect one member of the village or the urban local body.
To watch the complete video, download the Upbind educational app from Play Store and App Store.